This trial is starting out with a bang. I will say that. I am hoping that a lot of the skeletons that have been hiding in the closet start to tumble out, because for too long, many of these rich and powerful figures have been able to operate because of the money, the power, the celebrity, all of that. And I am hoping that these types of things start to send a message that that you're not going to be able to hide from the law. I've already talked about what Cassie said on the witness stand today. What I want to talk about are some of the reactions that I'm seeing on social media. Please keep in mind these topics can be graphic, they could be triggering. So if you are not in the right frame of mind to listen to this, please scroll away. If you are or have been victimized before, please scroll away. It's not worth your peace. Let's start off with Lil Boosie. Remember Lil Boosie, the one that paid a woman to statutorily R-word his 12-year-old son, because yes, it's statutory. I don't care if someone paid or whatnot. It's still statutory R-word. That's who is defending Diddy right now in all caps. Y'all know I got to heavily edit, but he said she liked the pee, as in the urine in her mouth. I don't see any crimes he has done. Everything was consensual. She enjoyed the sex, thrills, and the gifts after. I see no crime but DV in this case. Shaking my head. Here's where he deflects. Shaking my head. They left Hugh Hefner do whatever. Sad. If he was black, he would have been in prison. Let's keep it 100. It's crazy how sex parties become crimes. Shaking my head. It's because these people really have no basis. They don't understand that that narcotics and alcohol takes away consent. And even if there's consent one time, doesn't mean that there is blanket consent. And then when you start doing things like making recordings and using the recordings to dangle over their head, there is an element of coercion. But these people don't understand this because this is their way of life. These people will continue to protect each other because they know what they're doing behind the scenes. They know what they're doing over there in their closets. So that's the reason why they need to protect other people doing this, because they don't want other women to start having some ideas about coming out. And that's the reason why this stuff has become more of a snowball type of thing. Why old closets are being cleaned up, because a couple of women have had the nerve to come forward. So it's making it so that other women are getting the courage to come forward, because we are now starting to take these things seriously. So that's Boosie. And what's crazy, the post right before he made that post was him wishing his child, his daughter, happy birthday. This man has at least 3 daughters, and he's sitting up here like basically defending a man that was victimizing someone that's just slightly older than his daughter. That's where we are in this world. That's how these people are able to compartmentalize abuse. As I read through some of these comments on social media, I have to remember that I have curated my communities as a safe space where I block people when they start to get too out of pocket. I block people that defend monsters. But there are people, some women included, that actually defend monsters and victim blame. Elway C says, a Boosie boo, sit this one out, bro. Above the Law says, come on, man. Y'all need to read between the lines. If Diddy is covering up his face with a bandana during these episodes, of course he has groomed Cassie to know what to ask for, what he likes. Shaking my head. Young Miami even says she likes to get peed on because it's part of Diddy's fantasy. Cassie didn't like it. She had to do it. And I really do wonder if Young Miami really liked it, or if she was being videotaped. I'm wondering if she's going to be called as one of the witnesses during this trial. Keisha Bell, she's saying 100, basically co-signing everything that Boosie said. That's the reason why it's like pick-me's. I cannot stand pick-me's more so than the men, because you kind of have some kind of level of expectation from women. Like, I really don't I don't know. I don't have that high of expectation for men. I really don't. But women, pick-me's, these cultish people, these traditionalists, they help uphold the patriarchy. They help keep women oppressed. They are gender traders, basically. Ruin My Life says he groomed her. She was 19 when they met, so there was already a power imbalance between them. She was likely doing what she thought would make him happy or satisfied. When you're a victim of abuse, it's not that easy to say no or walk away. Please know and understand that this is why I do not like these big age gap relationships. But there were so many other power imbalances. The money situation, he was much more wealthy than her. The fact that he was the one that's actually pulling the purse strings for her career or holding her career over her head. Then being a man in the patriarchy, that's already creating an imbalance. There are so many things that are going on in this situation that's creating an imbalance. And then add on top of that the narcotics, add on top of that the video, taking all the videos. There are so many different ways to coerce a person. And once you have them under your grips, it's hard to get away. I am Fabo says, welcome to 2025, where in America you can take your sex back. Ill, making a joke. One Black Mexican says, in other words, it's cool when they do it. It's a problem when I do it. Ill, like literally just continuing to deflect to make it so that it's okay for a Black man to victimize somebody. Like I say, let's get them all. Obviously, we're not going to be able to take down Hugh Hefner because he's dead, but they want to shield these people. Money Machine HB says, bro, females still gonna say Diddy forced her to like it. He made her acquire the taste. We in the twilight zone. Ugh. Like what made y'all think that she liked to do this? Like what in her testimony says she liked to do this? These people hear certain things, or they just want to continue to try to make it so that we're hearing different things. I'm pretty sure that this is gaslighting. I'm pretty sure that this is the definition of gaslighting. I'm not sure. I could be wrong though. And like Sharisa said, nobody believed Cassie was abused. Then the video showed abuse. Now here y'all go again, shaming her again. And that's how it's going to be. Everything that they do, they're going to try to make this make sense and make this be so that she's the one that's culpable. Claudio says, bro, you got your own battles to fight. Sit this one out. King says, laugh now, cry later. Everybody was laughing at Diddy. Now they're crying for Diddy. I'm not crying for Diddy. All About Coco says, there's still no crimes against him. She stayed and was awards lifestyle. Ill, nasty. Here is the Jesse Wu pulling receipts on Boosie, where he was talking about paying someone to statutorily R-word his son. Jesse says, Boosie literally hired a grown woman to statutorily rape his 12-year-old son to make sure he wasn't a man-loving man. These are his words. Of course, he supports Diddy. Janet had an interesting take. Janet says, Diddy's daughters are the same age as Cassie when he started dating her. The perfect age when predators start lurking. People are up in arms about them being children and hearing the vile, actual contents. If just hearing about it was so inappropriate, imagine when it's being done to a 19-year-old. This is why old men dating a teenager is always so problematic for me. And then Ambitious Supreme says, same age as the OF girl that Shannon was toying with, Shannon Sharp. And toying with is a flexible word because was he also R-wording her? And then she goes on to talk about the race play with a teenager. He ought to be ashamed. Janet was talking about his daughters because his daughters were at the trial yesterday and they had to leave. They left because of the graphic nature of what was going on in trial. And on his part, being a dad and knowing what he did, why would he want his children to hear all this? But like she said, if it's too much for these girls to hear, it's probably too much for this same age demographic of girl to go through it with this adult man. I Am Melanie David gives a post with some distinctions. She says, I see a lot of people don't know the difference between a civil lawsuit and federal crimes. Cassie filed a civil lawsuit and Diddy immediately paid her because he knew he was guilty. Cassie's civil lawsuit was the start of a federal investigation into his years of ex-trafficking, racketeering, and crime organization ring. The evidence they found was enough to substantiate federal charges for which he is now on trial, and Cassie is a star witness. Hopefully y'all see that she's the one that got the ball rolling into federal crimes. There will be more, but that's it for now. Join the conversation. Join the conversation, and if you want to watch this upcoming video, proceed with caution.
I was in the courtroom as Cassie was testifying, so let me tell you guys everything that you didn't see or may have not heard, because it's a lot. I will say the most damning part of her testimony for me is when she describes a freak off where Diddy and another man, an escort, are standing on top of her while she is laying on the floor high off of ecstasy, and they are urinating on her face to the point where she is choking on their pee. And to further give context, on the right-hand side of the court seated is her husband, Alex Fine. On the left-hand side, Diddy's 6 out of 7 kids. We're sitting in the courtroom as Cassie is describing having weekly freak-offs for years that would last 2, 3, one lasted up to 4 days. She talked about damaging hotel rooms so bad in one instance that they had to pay such a hefty fee because the hotel told them that they needed to completely redecorate the room after a freak off. After a freak off, there would be blood, urine, and lots of baby oil. There was so much baby oil. There was also so much baby oil talk to the point where the judge at one point told prosecutors, wrap it up. But before we even got there, a very pregnant Cassie was called to the stand. She was wearing a tight brown turtleneck dress that was hugging her baby bump. When she sat down, you could tell she was nervous. And if you couldn't, you quickly picked up on it because once she started talking, you noticed that she paused a lot. She would sigh heavily before she answered a question. One of those moments was when she explained to the court that a year into their relationship, that Diddy had approached her with this fantasy that he had. He called it voyeurism, where he wanted to see her have sex with another man, later referred to as freak-offs. She said her stomach dropped. She was 22 years old. She described herself as very naive and a people pleaser. She said the only reason that she agreed to it is because she knew it would make him happy and she was afraid what would happen if she said no. That's also around the time, she says, that he started to get abusive. Most of her testimony today was spent on talking about these freak-offs, the different escorts that they would use, the different hotels that they would use. She said that she would find escorts off of Craigslist and this escort service called Cowboys for Angels. And to describe them, they weren't the most attractive men, right? They were very average looking. Some of them weren't even conventionally attractive. One thing they had in common is most of them were black because Diddy preferred for her black men with a big D, she said. At one point, Cassie broke down in tears when the prosecutor asked her, why didn't you leave? If the freak-offs, as you explained, were so disgusting and humiliating, why not leave? And she started crying and said that she was very deeply in love and this was the only alone time that she could get with Diddy. And it got to a point where this was kind of the only emotional connection that she was getting from this man that she was dating. So much more that I'll cover in another video, including his incessant phone calls, him tracking her down with his security, and her never being able to escape him.